Alright guys, how you doing? And welcome back to the FPL Updates YouTube channel, where for the first time out of the 38 game weeks, game week 27 is the one in which there's not going to be a full fixture list. That's taken ages, but let's get straight into it. Now of course the good thing about the 8 game week, because of the League Cup final, means there'll be quite a few double game weeks coming up. There's already going to be one because of this League Cup final, as I say, no Liverpool, no Man City, plus the FA Cup quarter final weekend. It could get very juicy indeed. But let's look at the fixtures we do have. Of course, no Liverpool and no Man City means a lot of fancy Premier League teams are going to be out without their star men. So maybe the differentials are a lot more important in game week 27. The early kickoff is West Ham Sunderland as Big Sam revisits his old stomping ground. Leicester could extend the lead at the top at home to Norwich, while Chelsea look to remain unbeaten in the Premier League against Southampton. Stoke host Villa, who look all but gone. Watford and Bournemouth is a clash between two newly promoted sides. And Crystal Palace will look to finally win a league game for the first time in ages after winning in the FA Cup last weekend. Man United Arsenal is a standout tie. And Spurs against Swansea sees the return of Gylfi Sigurdsson to White Hart Lane. Of course, Sigurdsson's been in fine form recently. 5 in 7, I believe. Interesting game week. Perhaps some fixtures like Leicester, Norwich and Stoke Villa you'd expect to be whitewashes. Maybe even Spurs and Watford you can make cases for. But, you know, this is the Premier League. Let's just remember that anything can happen at any time. But let's get into the captaincy choice, where it gets very interesting indeed. Now, I've been thinking about the captaincy choice quite a bit. Because, of course, there's only 16 teams involved. You've got to be very careful with the choice, because you may have some players who just aren't going to play. The captaincy choice becomes very, very important. I wouldn't say triple captain. Save that for the double game week. I think I'm going to go for Jamie Vardy this week, purely because he's the league's top scorer, which would make him the most reliable in terms of goals. Leicester have had the most penalties this season. If they get one, Vardy will take it. Vardy's pace is going to be rapid against centre-backs like Basong, Russell Martin. He should be tearing them a new one. Mahrez for Leicester, who's got, I think, double figures in 10 game weeks, is also not a bad shout. Leicester, of course, have had 2 weeks off because they didn't play in the FA Cup. No Champions League or Europa League for them either. You could go for Mahrez if you want. I just think this is a sort of game where Vardy on a small pitch will be pacing it down the flanks, down the centre, and could score quite a few goals at home to the Canaries. Now, I did mention differentials. I do think there's one man, if you're up for the gamble, this is the man you should be taking. Emmanuel Emenike scored 2 goals in the FA Cup win for West Ham against Blackburn. Also hit the post. Could have had loads more. Home against Sunderland. Emenike expected to start. Carroll, Valencia, Sacco, not fully fit. And of course, Jelavic and Zarate departed. Emenike, I mean, we know why Sunderland are down there. They concede a lot of goals. Emenike is going to bully those defenders. I think if you've got the guts to captain Emenike, probably on his first ever Premier League start, it could reap the rewards heavily. So Emmanuel Emenike if you want to take a risk, or Jamie Vardy or even Mahrez if you want to play it safe. And finally, I just show you my team. I've opted for the wild card because I had so many players who weren't going to feature because of that League Cup final. This team is going to be the backbone of what's going to take me from now until May. Decent side, of course, 3 West Ham players, 2 Leicester players, 2 Arsenal players, 2 Spurs players. Of course, I've taken the decision to rely on some teams because these clubs, they're all London clubs apart from Leicester, seem to be the ones that are going to get wins, they're going to grind out points. Leicester are first, Spurs are second, Arsenal are third, and West Ham are flying. Watford are doing alright, and Butland's been phenomenal. Playing it safe with the amount of teams I've got in my squad. Don't want to complicate things too much. This is going to be end of the game week 27 preview. Let me know what you do in your team. Do you pick players from maybe one from each club, or do you like to get 3 from one club and hope to bank maybe 3 players from one defence, etc, etc. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and check out Premier Punt, some fantastic fantasy football betting. We'll see you on the next one. Have a great weekend.